Welcome to The Right Focus, a podcast for writers, newbies and veterans, and everyone in between. We're hosted by M.A. Lee with the assistance of Remy Black and Edie Rooms, all from Writers Inc. books. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Each episode lasts as long as it takes to fix a quick dinner, drive a short commute, or take a brisk walk. Resources and links are in the show notes. Visit us at therightfocus.blogspot.com. Now, on to this week's episode. This year and the next will be celebratory years for me. I began publishing my writing in 2015, and October 24 will start my 10th year. As part of the celebration, I began this year featuring a novel a month, and that will continue through 2025 and probably into 2026. The Right Focus podcast debuted October 2020, yes, during that coronacoaster year, and is in its 5th season and will celebrate its 5th birthday on October 25. So this is a retrospective time to look at the writing and the podcast, examine where these are, and plan where to take them. The prospects for the future, as well as a retrospective, totting up gains, cringing at the worst failures, some of which will never see the light of day, and dwelling on chief lessons. You know, the what I wish I'd known before launching into the ocean of writing. The ocean of writing is a great metaphor. Writing has depths no one will ever reach. Each writer is a tiny ship surging through the billowing waves. We dwell on the surface with only forays into the upper levels. Where do I start with my Wish I'd Known retrospective? Let's return to 2013. I had a new port looming ahead and a ship that would need to change, a new destination and cargo that I could decide for the first time in years. I hoped the hurricanes stayed far from my course. In my reevaluation of the next few years and the years beyond, I remembered how much writing had called to me. I had set it aside to be a good little worker bee trained by a perfectionist mother. Over the years, when I had spare time for creativity, I pursued story ideas, a wide variety of ideas. Historical mystery, romantic suspense, fantasy, epic fantasy, space opera. I even had finished manuscripts and a few not quite finished. The Kindle Revolution flag had waved in the near distance a few times, and in 2013, considering my life ahead, I had the naive thought, I'll go indie. I'm glad I did go indie when I plunged into the cold waters of publishing in 2015. That is not my wish I'd known regret. Nope. My first wish I'd known regret is this. I didn't know my genre. I write as I read, a mix of history and mystery and romance, a cluster of fantasy wrapped around a love story. All my rejection letters from my submission days hinted at my genre problem. They were good rejection letters. We like this, but not at this time. Not enough fantasy. Not enough mystery. Not enough romance. Those rejection letters pinpointed the problem, but I couldn't see it. With hindsight, now I can see it. The stories couldn't be classified as solely mystery or solely romance. They were both. In a publishing industry competing for shrinking shelf space, dropping mid-list writers, and overpaying celebrity ghost-written books, a clear category for a novel was essential. We're over a decade into the ebook revolution, and the opportunities are ever expanding. Readers can narrow down to a highly specific niche and satisfy their reading wants and needs, but that wasn't the publishing industry before 2010. My first published novels as M.A. Lee are perfect examples of not knowing my genre. They mix mystery and romance in equal parts. I am very proud of those books. They are the stories I set out to write. But they fused genre, and they're still hard to market. A few fit the old definition of cozy mystery, but not the current definition of cozy, which, even as I speak, is drifting in directions I never would have anticipated years ago, and before indie publishing would never have been allowed by traditional publishing. Dark cozy, I'm talking to you. These days, knowing your genre category is more a matter of focusing your story with genre tropes. When planning a marketing campaign, we'd best know current films, especially the Disney Cinderella and Belle and Rapunzel, and ignore the original fairy tales. And so it goes in many different genres: the thriller, mystery, action adventure, matched to now and recent, not classic and traditional. When story idea seizes my creative energies, I have a two-track mind as I'm writing. My focus is not only the story, but also the genre, and I sometimes put that combined focus as the head note for every chapter. The second wish I'd known is tied very closely to the first, about writing genres, but it also delves deeply into my psyche. It has to do with what I can and cannot write. As M.A. Lee, I have 15 novels published, 12 that are standalone, and 3 with a series character, Isabella Newcomb. All 15 are murder mysteries. The first 12 have murder and romance in equal parts. Last year, I published 5 short stories with Isabella as a recurring character. Not one of them is a murder mystery. They're more puzzle mysteries with the occasional threat of physical danger. The 12 standalone novels do have interconnected characters, but the characters only feature as primaries in one. And that is because of something I had to admit to myself in the year before, in 2022. My psyche hurt, a physical ache, when I tried to have an amateur sleuth solving murder after murder. Yes, I know crime doesn't have to be murder mysteries, and the main character's job to solve those mysteries. But to have a single character whose job is not encountering murder after murder, that seems like bad karma or misfortune, not a good thing, even when the series character is needed to solve the murder. It's not murder itself that's the problem. In The Key for Spies, I had upwards of a dozen characters deservedly die, but the people doing their assigned jobs brought about the deaths. Nope, murder is not the problem. Let's cast back a year further to 2021. I tried to write a grim, dark fantasy, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I balked midway through the novel. I know that I can't write horror. I can't read it either. I don't even want to contemplate it. If grimdark and horror is your thing, good for you. It's not for me. Back in my 20s, I thought I could write anything I wanted, and I churned out a variety of story ideas. But I can't and will not touch certain genres now. You know the saying, too many books, too little time? Well, for me, it's so many ideas, too little mind. My regret is all that recent time trying to write a grim, dark book when the fantasy I do write pleases me. I regret none of my completed stories. I do regret several unfinished ones for the writing time lost. I can count that time as practice and nothing more. So I wish I'd known that I cannot be arrogant about my writing. I cannot write everything, as once I thought in my youthful pride. When I don't read it on a regular basis, then my mind will not accept writing it. We hear phantom stories of writers making a lot of money in a genre that they can't stand. They write, and then they burn out, and just cannot write that anymore. They wounded their psyche, the source of their stories, and until it heals, they cannot return to selling their writing souls. When our writing souls are refusing, we need to discover the reason. Isabella didn't want to stumble upon any more dead bodies, but she's perfectly willing to solve a non-murderous mystery. Simon Pargeter is perfectly willing to go into battle for his king, and Hector Evans is certainly willing to conduct an investigation, then clap irons on a murderer, male and female alike. For my last wish I'd known regret, well, that one I have to keep learning, and I wish I didn't have to keep learning it. Back in 2013, I decided to focus my efforts on writing. I had that Newport looming ahead, remember? Anyway, back in 2013, I could not decide which story should receive my focused efforts. I started with 3 stories, a novel to finish, an idea that was haunting me, and an idea that I really wanted to see where it led. My first plan was one idea on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday evenings, the second idea on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evenings, and all of Saturday on that novel to finish. Pretty quickly, I realized that I couldn't maintain focus on 3 separate projects. I dropped the second idea to focus on the novel and the intriguing idea, and rocked along with those 2 projects into early 2014. Rocked is the best verb there, because I certainly wasn't steadily advancing. Invariably, when it was the time to work on Project 2, I had ideas for Project 1, and vice versa. By autumn, I was focusing on the novel and a slowly advancing nonfiction project. I had learned, you see, that the creative side of my brain could only generate ideas for one fiction project. I could work on bits of a nonfiction project at the same time, but only in small bites of information, such as the enemies part of the Test Allies and Enemies chapter for the archetypal story pattern. I occasionally forget that I can't handle 2 fiction projects at once. When I'm mulling over a problem, I think, I'll work on the setting for the next project, only to completely shut my mind down for Project 1. I keep thinking that I can sneak in portions of another fiction project while I'll work on the first one, but no. I cannot prove Project 1 while I write Project 2. I cannot. I must completely finish, through proofs and corrections, having them all completed before I pick up the next fiction project. I've also learned that when the nonfiction project nears completion, the fiction won't advance until that's done. I wish I would remember this. I wish I'd known it early on and had trained my brain to that mindset. Even the nonfiction becomes a problem when it needs more than 3,000 new words a week. So that's my writing regrets, my wish I'd known, my need to work on one fiction project to its completion, my wish that I hadn't wasted several months on projects that I shouldn't have attempted in the first place because they aren't to my taste and they aren't to my style. And greatest of all, my wish that I'd truly understood genre and the tropes when I first began prepping manuscripts for publication in 2015. I'm still learning about writing craft, about what helps and hinders my productivity, about the basic tools of writing, and the whole process of ideas to paper to publication. Next week we have the last episode in May before June, which will commence the Summer Writing Challenge. This year the challenge extends into July as the Write Focus shares more than word counts. It's all the things we have to do in addition to the writing. Until then, write on. Thanks for listening to The Write Focus, a podcast for writers at all levels, hosted by Emma Lee from Writers Inc. Books, assisted by Renee Black and Edie Runes. Our focus is productivity, process, craft, and tools. Music is licensed through Audio Jungle, called Background Music Loop. Its creator is Alexander Polishchuk, known on Audio Jungle as Plastic 3. The music comes in different iterations. Show notes and resource links for this and other episodes can be found at thewritefocus.blogspot.com. Write to us at winkbooks@aol.com when you have questions, comments, and speculations. We will try to answer you as quickly as possible. By the way, we will not mind your email address. That's rude. If you find value in our content, share with your writing friends or write a review. We're small beans here without the advertising budget of the big peeps, and you can make a difference. And whatever occurs, write on.